Welcome to this small journey in the bigger journey. It's actually a continuation, and as you'll notice, it's not the typical healing program, although we are going to explore this part of the fears coming up, of all the limiting beliefs that are preventing us from embodying our higher self, our vision, our soul mission, but will be from a different approach, not from what is not working, what is wrong with me, and so on. So that's why the activation that we did at the last module is very important, connecting with our higher self, because we're going to use this part of ourselves, and without which actually we cannot do the alchemy process. So just to center in and to first, we're going to start, of course, with the bigger picture and to understand a little bit the process and how it works, the theory, if you want. And then we're going to explore a method. It's called Alive technique. It's a 5-step process that help us with all the fears, limiting beliefs, shadows, parts of us that are not integrated. It's a fantastic process. I've been developing it for the past, 4 or 5 years, refining it, and it's one amazing tool. So I will be sharing it with you, and we're going to do a part. We're going to start it today, the first part, and the second we're going to continue in the next module. But you'll see that it's simple. It's a system that actually gives us the tools to do this inner work. And of course, it's not, as I was sharing, it's not the typical healing process, right? Like, remember, we're living the life usually from the ego, from the protection mechanisms, which doesn't represent our true highest self-identity. And our goal, of course, is to embody this frequency of ours. So in the healing paradigm, the old 3D paradigm and even 4D, we're noticing we have some wounds, we have some trauma, and we're trying to release, to heal ourselves and so on. But it's still the ego trying to do all these things. So it works to some degree, but it has a lot of limitations, meaning there's a lot of resistance. So we are going to be circling in circles. We're going to do a lot of maybe therapy for years or different processes. Whereas when we are using alchemy, which is the next paradigm, the 5D paradigm, the results, the process can be, I wouldn't say instantaneous, maybe in a few minutes, hours, but anyway, depends how long we need to stay with what is coming up. We're gonna talk about it in detail, how we do it. But what I'm saying is that the process is much faster, and more than that, we're working at the root. So if and also in the same time, when we are living the life from the ego paradigm, trying to survive and just live life, trying to reach as much pleasure, avoid so much pain as we can, we're not actually, the old wounds or triggers or limiting beliefs can stay hidden in our subconscious for ages because we don't get the opportunity to see them. So that's why it's called catalyst, because it's actually such a big opportunity. It's a catalyst, this energy which used to sabotage us. Now it becomes our ally. We can transform this into energy that actually helps and sustains our mission. So what is the difference? The difference is that we are aligning with our true self, with our higher self, and we're not looking for what is not working. We're not in that paradigm anymore. We're aligning with our wholeness, and from this space, inevitably will come up fears, limiting beliefs. Who am I to speak in front of people? Imposter syndrome, I'm not good enough, and so on. They will come up, they will show up when we want to do a video or to uh, launch a program and so on, right? When we want to share our spark, our light into the world. Does it happen? Do you know? Does it resonate? Have you been in these situations? Yeah. So it's inevitable that all these old fears and paradigms and limiting beliefs will come up. And as I was saying, it's such a great opportunity to release them, to alchemize them at the root. And before we go into the technique, I would like to uh, take us into a very brief, let's say, theoretic part to understand a little bit how these patterns were formed. Why do they sabotage ourselves, our progress, and before we deal with the solution, right? So we have, some of you might have seen this little doll, and it's a useful metaphor to understand because we're a multidimensional being. Actually, we are spirit. Some of you asked at the last module to clarify a little bit the lower self, higher self, so it's good to have clarity in this process. So we are spirit, the I am, which is beyond form, which is beyond definition, which is the feeling of I am, the existence. We know that we are, right? And we have a soul, which is the vehicle for this human experience, and we have a body, right? Which is the temple of the soul. So let's say this is the physical body, and we interact, especially in the old paradigms, as bodies, as egos. But inside the body, there is the astral body, right? Which is the etheric body and the emotions, the astral body. Then at the more subtle level, there is the mental body, all the limiting beliefs and the convictions and thoughts and so on. Then is the feeling body, which is actually associated with the heart, and which is more subtle than the astral body, where are also emotions, but the feeling body, it's a much subtler field. And then the vibration body, and till we get to the causal body and the essence, the more and more subtle bodies. So we come into this world as vibration, let's call it as a star, frequency, energy. And what gets formed, first of all, is the emotional body, actually the feeling body, the heart, right? So in this phase, even from being in the womb and when we are born and the first years, we have very active the emotional body. And any trauma or what is uncomfortable gets stored, first of all, in our feeling body, in our heart, right? We don't know, we don't give any definition yet. We don't explain or we don't make any judgments about it. We just, our bodies contract and we store this energy in our uh, subtle body. Then we begin to develop the mental body. What that means, we give a story. So let's say our parents, mother or father, mother didn't give attention, right? And it formed contraction in the feeling body. But then when we develop the mental body, we tell a story. Is something wrong with me? Or father was not present. I'm not good enough, and so on. So we develop beliefs, right? Then those get stored also in the astral or energetic body. And we have blocks in our chakras, in our nadis or meridians, and the energy is blocked, cannot flow freely. And that, of course, has also a correspondence in our physical body. And that gets as a tension in the body or some pain or even some disease if it gets long enough and the energy is not filtered. We don't hear the messages from the more subtle bodies, then it gets into the physical body as a disease or challenge or whatever, or in the physical world as a mirror. So then we see it, and now we finally tell, I have a problem. Something is not right, right? But that the cause was actually at a much deeper level than what the physical eyes or the senses can tell. So this is the role actually of the emotions, because emotions are at a much subtler level, and they tell us, especially when we have a negative so-called emotion, because they are messengers. Positive emotions tell us that we are in alignment with our higher self. A negative emotion, it's an inner conflict, and it's a contradiction between what our higher self is calling us and the perspective of our higher self, and what the lower self is believing, what beliefs we stored from childhood, from our life experience, from our traumas, and so on. So we will explore how to re-establish this balance, this alignment in our being, because actually this is the key. This is how we spoke last time about coherence, right? This is how we resonate as a coherent field when our whole parts of our being are in alignment. When it's tension, when it's inner conflict, then where do you think is the focus and what we manifest? The focus, it's on what actually captures our attention. It's where is the pain, where is the discomfort, and that is usually in our subtle bodies, in our feeling bodies, right? So that's the subconscious. So actually, because our awareness is there, our focus is there, this is actually what we attract and we manifest in our lives. So for example, right, we had the limiting belief, I'm not good enough. And that is associated with the pain, with the discomfort that we don't want to feel. So how this affects our soul mission? Well, I might be hiding, or I might be, and I'm trying to solve to get clients, right? But actually, because I feel lack and so on, I'm not worth it and so on. And consciously, I want to solve the problem, working. The focus actually it's on the pain, on the limiting belief. And this is actually what we are broadcasting to the universe. This is what we'll receive back. Does it make sense how it got formed and why it's important actually to work with these paradigms, imprints, emotions? Let me know, does it make sense in general terms, the explanation, and to have before we go to the solution, or if there are any questions? Totally good. Makes sense. Good. So just one more drawing to clarify one other aspect that is important also. Yeah, Linnea, sorry, I sent the wrong link. I'm glad you could join us. Okay, so let's draw this also. We have, I don't know if you can see. Okay, so does it? Let's see if it works. Can you see? Or I changed the board. Okay. So this is our little human experience, let's call it. So this is our body and energetic field, right? And we have the limiting beliefs, let's call them the patterns in our fields, what we said before with the doll, what we expressed. So this actually broadcasts according to the vibrations that are stored in our energy field. So we form, actually, this is also this is also our identity. And we are kind of in a box with all the with all the patterns, with all what we believe, with what we experienced. We kind of stay in our little box, our paradigm, our current identity, based on what we experienced, what definitions we have of the world, what we believe to be true, and so on. And what we experience, what we get from life, it's also a reflection of our identity, our timeline, where we live currently. But when we connect it with our heart, right, that's why it's important, because we can bypass and get out of the box in meditation. When we are activate our higher self identity, we can do that, right? So we are connected with our higher self. And this, it's a totally different reality. It's a place where you experienced it, right? You created the manifesto and how it feels, what is your emotional signature, frequency signature, how life is totally different than the current reality. So we are expanding, right? We are becoming bigger. We are expanding our consciousness, awareness, and energy field. But what happens is then when we hit the limit of our current reality, current identity, our ego, the limiting beliefs tend to pop up, right? In Sanskrit, they are called samskaras. They are energetic imprints in our subtle bodies, what we talked before, but they are not active in majority of time. They're in standby. But when we get triggered, and we get triggered from different reasons, but especially when we connect with our heart calling, with what we came here to do with our intention, those limiting beliefs that are in contradiction are raising their head, right? They're coming up to the surface. So that means discomfort. That means inner conflict. It's automatic. We'll feel pain because this is like a splinter, right? Got into our skin, and we're all the time trying to protect it, not to touch it. But uh, we'll talk about how we actually heal it. But what is now important is to understand that when we expand and we try to connect, we want to connect with our higher self, the old paradigms will get triggered, will come to the surface. So then it's important to understand how to actually uh, heal it at the root. And I was beginning to explain the metaphor with the splinter. I hope it's the right term in English, like a small wood piece that, gets into our skin and it's very painful. And we try to protect it, right? We want not to touch. This is how it feels, that energetic imprint. It's uncomfortable when it got stored, and we use our energy and our willpower to build gloves around it, not to people to come in contact or to touch it, to create long distance communication or whatever. The intellect is very powerful, got us to the moon, but usually it's because we don't want to feel the discomfort. But actually, this is one of the main keys to healing at the root. It's being willing to stay with that discomfort momentarily in order to release it. Otherwise, so there are two options, right? We continue to live the life on defense with the masks, with the protection, not to try to steer, to touch the pain. And we did that for many, many years, and it worked to some degree, but now it's not working more and more, or less and less it's working, because what we said also before, the energies are much more powerful now, are bringing the old patterns to the surface more and more. So we have a choice: either continue, and we need more and more energy and will to defend it, to protect our wound and not to feel it, or we can choose to stay with a little bit of discomfort to actually take the splinter out for good and to release it. So this is the part of the process of alchemy. And as I was sharing, we're going to start with the first two steps of the alive method, the A and L. So um, it's such a powerful process. The alchemical process is totally different than the paradigm of trying to heal ourselves, because we're working with the natural laws. We don't do the process of healing ourselves. We're just holding in the consciousness in a certain way, and we'll explore in a bit how we do that, so that the imprint, the energy gets released, because this is how it normally functions. The energies have different vibrations. Some feel uncomfortable, some feel very pleasant, and it's natural. This is part of our human experience. The thing is that uh, we are wired, when is something uncomfortable, to reject it, to contract, not to feel it. When we feel something pleasant, we tend to grab it and attach to it and so on. But when we do that, we actually store that energy in our subtle bodies. When we try to reject it, not to feel it, and that gets stocked in our bodies, and actually we keep it there forever, right? We, we just, it's just an illusion that we're not going to feel it. We use a lot of willpower, but the pain is there. We store it in our subtle bodies. The more we try to reject it, not to feel it, the deeper it gets into our subtle bodies. So the solution, actually, the natural way of uh, releasing it, is because the emotional body, the feeling body, also has an immune system like the physical body, like the energetic bodies. When it's a virus, let's say in the physical body, we get some fever or whatever, which is the natural mechanism of the body to release that virus. The same in the emotional body or the energetic body. That energy, let's say it's a lower vibration, comes through us, but we have the immune system, and just gets released if we let it, if we just observe it, if we just stay with it. So we don't have to do try to solve it. It's the natural law that it gets processed by its own when we stay in the awareness, in the witness. And this is actually the first step in the alive method. A comes from awareness and acceptance. So maybe